So how many of you are familiar with Guyana, South America? Great. Excellent. Have you had the chance to visit there? Or? Oh, excellent. Okay, good. So Guyana, when we took this project on about 2.5, 3 years ago, this was an educational story to some degree. Guyana hadn't had that much exposure. Although there's 15 Canadian companies there right now, generally a lot of the companies you've never heard of, and if you have, maybe you've heard of just one of them, Guyana Goldfields, which seems to be the poster boy for Guyana, good and bad because they've had a little bit of issues lately. But they're still a $200 million market cap, and they've done really well in the country. What we liked about Guyana was the fact that it's within what you call the Guyana Shield, spelled with the I-A-N-A. And the Guyana Shield is the prospective region that is gold bearing. It has geological continuity with West Africa, so this is very important when you're looking at a primary area for further discoveries. West Africa's, you can say, is 250, maybe 300 million ounces has been discovered. The Guyana Shield, 75 to 100 million, depending who you're talking to. So there's great exploration upside, but part of that, because we feel we're early movers, that there's an education to the market. Everybody gets and understands West Africa, but not necessarily so Guyana or that region or the Guyana Shield. What we also liked was Guyana in particular, which is different from French Guyana, is English-speaking, British common law, democratically elected, 27.5% tax rate, established mining act. It's a very good country. It used to be a commonwealth in 1960s. They're independent now. But because of the British common law, it's very well respected. An example of that is the lawyers are very, very well respected in the country. And so, it's a nice country to do business with in that respect. So it was really good for us. We're in the south there. You can see the Guyana Gold Project, about 500 kilometers to the south. The majority of deposits and resources are to the north, 80-90% of them. That's where Guyana Goldfields is as well. That's just because there's lots of gold there as well, but that's sort of where the work has been established. We're a standalone in the south. That doesn't mean that we have additional infrastructure issues. Generally, the infrastructure in Guyana is poor anyways. So even if you're right next to Georgetown, you still could be traveling for a day and then a boat for half a day and then traveling to get to a property. So don't be fooled by us being in the south that there's additional infrastructure issues. In fact, getting to the property, if I were taking you, would be quite streamlined right now. We'd take a flight on an Islander for about an hour and a half down to the village of Aishelton, which has an airstrip, and then about an hour and a half to 2 hours by road to the site. We're also in the process of permitting an airstrip, and once we have that, we would take you right onto our property. But we're very self-sufficient down there. There's 6 or 7 villages with the Amerindians that are all wanting us there, and the reason we have the property is because we worked with the government and them to want us back there to take a mining license that had gone back to the government. So we got it all back and got it up and running. And so we do a lot of our produce, and a lot of some of our staff that's in the mining camp is just through hiring through the local villages and working with them. And then the little town of Lethem there on the border of Brazil is where we get a lot of our goods as well. So that's all nicely set up. I mentioned this already. You can see a lot of activity to the north. Perhaps we're on the leading edge of a new zone or a new area to the south. And people ask, well, you're really, really in the jungle there. Not really. When you land into Aishelton, it's savanna, and then we drive along the savanna for about 45 minutes, and then there's about a 45 to an hour drive into at the foot of the jungle into the jungle. So we're about 10 kilometers inside what you would say would be traditional jungle. So we're just on the edge there. We feel we have an added advantage being in the south. No one can really stake around us because we have a mining license, and we work with the Amerindians and the government in establishing ourselves there. And so you just, as a company, just couldn't go there and say, well, I want to stake right next to you guys. You can't. We'll have a first opportunity, first mover advantage to continue to expand potentially along what is a 30-kilometer trend. And we know that there's a number of areas on that 30-kilometer trend that's mineralized as well. It's showing the same type of rock, iron formation. So there is opportunity for us to grow beyond Marudi. Marudi in itself is a multi-million ounce opportunity, But if we can continue to expand or continue our footprint or our presence in the south there, we could really have something that could be a tier one maybe opportunity moving forward. I'm looking forward a lot on that because we're still an exploration company, but that's okay. I spoke to geological continuity. I don't know if I want to say much more on that. But when you do drilling, the drilling is very similar to what you see in Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, those type of intervals and grades. There's the mining camp that we inherited. Those two buildings closest to you are the core shacks. So from the historic prior producers, prior operators, we have very good core that's intact, so we can go back and resample, recore, and we are doing some of that. Very, very good condition as well. We have a very streamlined exploration plan. Our strategy is very, very clear, and it's very simple. We are a young, small junior. We don't really want to mine, even though we have a mining license. We've inherited that. That's an asset. We want to open this property up. The property's been generally very underexplored. 15, 20%, and I think that's being generous, has been really explored on the property. 80% has not been explored. We want to open up with the discovery of new zones. We did this effectively last year with what's called Toucan Ridge. We were financed in early last year with a company called, the funds called Zijin Funds. This is a fully owned subsidiary of Zijin Mining, which is the largest gold producing company in China. They financed us for $3 million. We took their money. They liked our strategy. They were aligned with it. We took their money and we trenched and we opened up and had a discovery zone in the Toucan Ridge discovery zone. We did 12 trenches in a particular area, 750 meters squared, and it looks like this could be a satellited open pit style deposit. Everything on the property would be open pits, and the property would come together as a multiple of satellited deposits. In aggregate, that's how we would get to 1.5 or 2 million ounces. We have a current zone that we brought into a compliant resource, which is called the Mazoa Hill Zone. So we have just under 350,000 ounces there of I&I. It's open in a number of directions that I'll get to. But anyway, so we want to continue to discover, trench, do some very strategic confirmation drilling, and show the size with multiple zones and discoveries. When we do that, it's been suggested that we will be handed off to potentially to Zijin Corporate, where they would then potentially come in and be a major partner of financing, anywhere from 10 to 20 $1 million that we would need to do infill drilling and to have an updated resource of north of $1 million. So that's basically our strategy, is to the smaller dollars that the funds can put in with us. We are very strategic to open up the property, show the potential, and then hopefully we get handed off. We have a natural partner in Zijin that could take us all the way to taking us out, but take us to a mining scenario. Again, I spoke to 15, 20% of the property being unexplored. Everything I've spoken to is within that square there. The 350,000 ounces, the new discovery, and another 5 or 6 areas that we didn't get a chance to get to last year that we know are mineralized and prospective to be additional zones. That's the 350,000 ounces. There's 2 types of mineralization on the property that we're still trying to further understand. There's a background 1 to 2 grams, which is very indicative, which is very customary to an iron formation. But we also have high grade, and the high grade can be anywhere, 5, 15 grams, 50 grams, 75 grams in these chutes, in these narrow quartz pyrite chutes. We need to further understand the controls that's bringing the high grade in, and if we can further understand that, potentially we can identify some high grade areas. So it's exciting to have both types. And we need to understand, are these 2 separate events, or was there a remobilization of the gold? We don't know, and that's part of what we've done as a team. The prior operators did a very poor job of exploring this property and doing their exploration work properly. So we have a very good team that we've brought on to make sure we're doing the steps properly. Any mid-tier or a major will say to us, do you understand your mineralization? Do you understand your controls? So we're cognizant of that, and we're working towards that. This is very important. That top line is the quartzite metachert. Quartzite metachert is where the gold is, the formation where the gold's in. Now, what this is the magnetic response that we get in the quartzite metachert. For the first time, no other operator had done this. We ran. I'm going as fast as I can. We ran a magnetic over the entire property. The magnetite lights up. And when the magnetite lights up, where we have magnetite, we find gold. It's very key. Where there's magnetite, there's gold. The magnetite is lit up by the magnetic that we ran over the property. That right there where you're looking at, you can see the square where it's Mazoa Hill. That's the 60 holes at Mazoa Hill that the prior operator had done that gave us our 350. You can see to the south, to the north, to the west, there's an offset, and there's also to the east there, more the red and the orange. This is 5 kilometers of untested prospective rock that we know is mineralized. So to what degree, we don't know, but that's where some of our exploration will go. So the potential to increase our 350,000 ounces just in Mazoa Hill is very, very real. So we have a lot of exploration work with a lot of good independent data sets that are leading us in the right direction. I'll go to one last slide. The one before is kind of interesting. There's been some preliminary metallurgy. That always comes up. Prior operators did some preliminary metallurgy. It's all very positive. There's nothing to suggest that the metallurgy won't be more than adequate. 60 million shares out, very tightly held. Zijin has a 25% equity position. Insiders, friends, associates have about 50%. There's not much in the float. We're trading on our lows right now, doing a financing at 20 cents, closed $1 million. I'll be closing another 2, even though we're below below the 20 cents range right now. So hopefully that'll be corrected in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know, that's a quick review. Financing, resource estimate at Mazoa Hill, focused on discovery and adding additional ounces. We want to get to 1.5. That's a 10-year discounted cash flow that would interest a major. Attractive mining model with a mining license and a great strategic partner. Thank you very much.